the moves, they're not hard to find. Strong arm tactics so loud, only themselves in mind. Every player has dreams of making ORCA fame. They'll live on in the minds of those who get in their way. ORCA's all say, don't come for me. Mythers, boots, they're so vain. As we set up the podcast webcam, the pod is here to talk ORCA game. ORCA King CK with delusions of fame. In this LRG world, he's the apex predator. Danny and Jules in tow, always ready to go. Now it's time for the show. They're the apex predators.
Hello and welcome to the ORCA Pod, the Apex Predators of Australian Survivor LRG podcasting. I am CK and we are continuing our coverage of Backyard Survivor Redemption, the third best season of the 11 LRGs that existed when we did the voting some year and a half ago. We've done our deep dive. We've had our special interview with the three returnees, and tonight the winner will be joining us to talk about his fantastic winner game. Looking forward to talking to Salvador about all his moves and his gameplay. Before doing that, as always, a little bit of housekeeping, confirming the rest of our run for the Backyard Survivor Redemption coverage. Next Monday, Annabelle will be joined by Rachel, Josh, and Casper on the Tea Party. I'm sure it's going to be very exciting to hear all the gossip and action from what was the season from three of the largest characters that were there. And then the week after, the moment everyone waits for, particularly Josh O'Brien, who's desperate to win this ORCA award. The ORCA award will be announced along with various other awards of lesser importance. And I will catch up with Kyle and Brian to talk about this fantastic season. Following that, we'll be moving into the second best season, which I am yet to reveal and I will not confirm now. So hold your horses on that one. That's all coming up. Now, without further ado, let me welcome the winner of Backyard Survivor Redemption. Sal, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. It's always fantastic to get these winners on to do a deep dive about the game they played. I know you're very enthusiastic. You've been rewatching your season in preparation to remind yourself of your glory.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd done a bit of a journal afterwards and managed to get like the full first day of notes and then sort of dropped off. So I didn't have anything for day two, unfortunately. But it was just like a lot of fun to rewatch the entire season in its entirety. Because you go through and like you sort of show bits to people and you have little snippets. But it was a lot of fun. Now that it's been sort of 4 years since it happened, to go through it again.
Journaling, I've not heard of that. Do you think that's something that everyone or lots of people do, or do you think just as a winner, you get journaling because you're like, what a wonderful couple of days that was. I am going to now reflect upon that in my own journal about my own success.
I think it started, I've got just like a little book, and it started when I was doing my like live reality game, org, sorry. So I'd done it with the orgs, just making notes because our one was quite long, just to try and keep on top of votes and things that were going on. So it sort of stemmed from that, and then just moved into this. And it's just a good sort of keepsake and reminder as well as the show.
Had you played a lot of orgs before you went on Backyard Survivor?
No, not at all. I did, it was called Online Survivor Madness. So I just did, I think it was season 2. Feel like it was season 2 of that, and then came back to the All-Stars, which might have been season 4 or 5, like a year or so later. And that was it. And then sort of rolled into Backyard after that.
Did you? I think the orgs are a huge advantage for people that haven't played them. Do you think that it really provided an advantage to you having played those orgs in this game that you played?
Yeah, I feel like it did. You just get your head around the like the basic sort of format, but just being able to converse with people and working out like what does work and what doesn't. Um, yeah, obviously helps. Like it's a bit hard to transition from something like the game I played was 50 days, and I managed to win that first one I did, so that was great. So I got the full experience there, and then the second time for All Stars I came fifth, I think it was, which was 55 day one. So I actually lasted 49 days. So it's a lot longer of a format than a 2 day quick round. But yeah, there was definitely things that you could sort of take from it to try and bring into the backyard scene.
And how did you know about Backyard Survivor to apply for this season?
I went to high school with Calvin from season one. Wasn't sort of in touch with him at all, but somehow I feel like that pulled up Backyard Survivor for me, or it might have been after the orgs. I think I'd seen it on like a fan page or something like that. I think I remember Brian sort of saying that potentially I was one of the earlier people that had applied and they had no sort of recollection of who that person was. So I think our season was one that was a lot of people were applying, which they weren't friends with, whereas the first few seasons it was more of a friends or friends of friends sort of thing going on potentially.
So you come on to the day. Had you watched the prior Backyard seasons, did you identify these returning first boots when you saw them coming over the hill?
I was reading through a bit of my journal before, and I'd written there that I thought one of them might have been Hal for a split second there. But I had watched the earlier seasons, but nothing too in depth. So, like from a distance, couldn't tell who they were up until they were very close to us. Yeah, which was really exciting because. Like from the get-go, I had really wanted to work with David, or like I just liked his sort of, even though we didn't see him for long, his his sort of game style. So that was cool to have him on board as well.
Interesting, and we'll get that. Were you with David? Did you vote out David, or were you on the other swap tribe? I'm feeling you voted out David.
I did, yeah. When push came to shove, I tried to keep him for as long as I could. I was kind of bummed that he didn't pick me on the mat at the start. I was really hoping that I would get on his tribe. So I was sort of looking away when the others were picking, and then like looking up like a puppy dog to pick me. But I think he didn't have a great vibe from me at the start because he also sort of saw me, which he was doing too. He was sort of looking around at that breakfast for some idols or clues or something like that. But yeah, he spotted me as well. And yeah, maybe that put him off from picking me at the start.
Let's talk about the breakfast. You'd watched the prior seasons, but on none of those occasions did they have a scenario where it was possible for everyone that was playing in the season to meet and greet and get to know each other. You took the time to steal some bananas. You said that you were looking to keep for later. You later found out there were letters on them. You were looking for advantages. Did you also spend time trying to build relationships, or were you more focused on the game aspects at the breakfast?
It was probably, I was going to say 60-40, but I can't remember the numbers. I definitely was looking, like I was looking underneath the platters and stuff like that for anything written down or clues. And then, yeah, the bananas was a byproduct of me just trying to grab a heap for the tribe. So yeah, I did a little bit of looking, but I did try to get around.
Did you share the bananas once you got to the tribe? Did you share the bananas once you got to the tribe? Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So it wasn't until we were back to the tribe that I actually fully understood that there was letters on it. But because I'd grabbed so many, it wasn't just LOGO for logo. There was a lot of double ups, which just made it very confusing for the next couple hours going, what does this mean? So yeah, that was a funny one.
the tribe. You say you wanted David to pick you. I think hearing this, if he's hearing this right now, I think he would regret not picking you. I think hearing that you wanted to work with him would have been a dream come true for David. But you end up on the yellow tribe. What were your first impressions of this tribe, and how did you think it was going to go for you? For yourself, there is not on this original tribe someone that is of the same age and of the same gender as you. Like you say that you want to potentially go with David, similar gender, similar age, maybe similar playing style, perhaps to how you wanted to play, and we'll get into how you wanted to play and how you did play in a little bit. Initial thoughts on this tribe? Did you feel confident, or did you feel like I've really got to work to build some relationships here?
Yeah, it was definitely like the start of our tribe was very much close knit, getting to know each other, which was great. It's just like once you've passed that bit, you've found a couple of people like Casper, who was very game orientated as well, and then Kiara also was quite into Survivor. So there was definitely people to bounce off ideas and stuff. So that was an issue, and that was like exciting to have as well. Like just walking into this entire season and getting like segregated from everyone at the start just shows like how professional everything was, and it was just like one thing after the other. So at that point I was still just like overawed and like extremely excited to be doing it all. So yeah, I was very, very excited and happy with the tribe as well. I think early on,
take a moment to...
Yep, you go.
No, you go. No, just here.
I was just going to say, sorry, there's just a slight delay, my bad. I was just going to say, from the early on like little chats we were having, Val was probably the only one that we'd myself and probably Casper, I'd say as well, but everyone, like, we're all just sitting around talking about our Survivor experiences and like what the connection we had to it. And Val was the one that sort of had the least connection, and had applied off like an acting, some sort of acting like website almost, or something like that, like an agency thing, which was cool. But obviously she didn't really have much of a Survivor awareness before this. So for me, definitely like looking forward, it was like, okay, if someone that like I can sort of get it, or we can all sort of rally behind to push as our first boot, if that was to come to it, or when it comes to it, which was a good bit of information from that first sort of circle chat that we had at Yellow.
We can jump there in a moment. I want to talk about your game more broadly, and I think you've touched on a little bit here. What we talked about in the deep dive, and what my feel was from watching the show, is that you're a super fan of the game. You obviously played long orgs. You were looking at every moment when there was a critical decision you could make about how the game would proceed. It felt like you wanted to do something more interesting, make a big move, make a big flip. But ultimately, it always was never in your interest to do it. And so you ended up in this sort of like solid alliance, old school structure. Was that the feeling you were having on the day as well? I wish I could do something, but it just doesn't make any sense for me to do it.
Yeah, 100%. You've hit the nail on the head there. I think from going through and doing the orgs, my first season that I played with Keegan and Kath as well, who are like players in themselves. And Keegan, something that stuck with me was just like, you've got to make big moves. Like, I want to see big moves, when he was voted out in my first season. And I did that in my first season of the org, and I still won, luckily. But I sort of, you do see like through this season where it's like a big move isn't exactly required, like you said, if you're in a position that isn't requiring that big move. And it's just like you said there, each time that possibility and that option sort of came up, it's like, well, I could, but like, is that actually the best move for my game at this position? And it's like, unfortunately not. And yeah, I'm having a great experience, and I also like would love to do those things, but like I think outweighing that was like actually trying to win, and I felt like that easier path was my best shot at doing it. So I didn't want to do something rash like play two idols at the same time and save Matt, or or any of these other things, when it was just like, oh no, this is clearly easier to go down that route.
Were you surprised as much as anyone that the Red Tribe chose to Francesca Holly? When you come into the second sort of challenge and you see who they voted out, how shocked were you personally to see they'd made such a savage move?
Yeah, I feel like when you spoke with Holly, she said like, don't want to make a big deal of it. So I don't want to talk about it too much, but obviously I was shocked. Just from me touching on before, like for our tribe we managed, or like we were able to work out who sort of didn't have as big of a survivor connection. And I felt like we should target them to be like, this is a big thing going on a backyard survivor. And I feel like I wanted to give everyone that was a survivor fan a really good opportunity at playing it. And for them to vote out Holly was sort of just like, oh, that is pretty rough. Yeah. I feel like I wouldn't have done that if I was in that position.
and of course, you do get a chance to choose who goes. On the second episode, you guys don't win immunity and you need to vote someone out. You've talked a bit about here how you already were thinking that Valentina would be the optimal target based on her knowledge of the game, the fact that it didn't mean as much for her to be there. Was this something that you felt was a pretty easy vote to come together? I think the episode did an effort to try and make us feel that perhaps there was alternate thoughts perhaps going on. But do you think consistently, really all five of you were pretty on board with that move and that was just the way? Or do you think you drove that in some way?
No, I don't think I drove it. I feel like potentially before that challenge, I'd spoken with Casper about like trying to position Val at that final position. So then if we lost, it's sort of just like, oh, like we could have won, but Val potentially screwed it up for us at that final hurdle of trying to get the balls into the cheese grater sort of thing. So we did have the thoughts before going into that first challenge of, or at least myself and I'd say Casper, as like it's a while, so I can't remember everyone, but yeah, I feel like there was definitely that position of going, I think this is who we would like to get out.
You then have a fairly chill time for a while until the swap. But right before the swap, based on the edit, Casper comes and tells you about the idol clue that he had obtained. Obviously, he's telling you this at this stage because they feel there's a swap about to occur and they want to bring someone in to help find it. You immediately empty your water bottle. You keep trying to get to that well. You eventually do find the bank of wood. Tell us about your experience trying to determine this, because no one else even figured it out in any of the tribes. You eventually figured it out. You got another clue. I think you'd already got a clue later on in the auction. I think you get the same clue that you already had. You eventually work out that it is the actual piece of wood, and not something hidden behind the wood, not the discarded. How was that experience? When you finally figured that out, were you like, I'm an idiot? Or were you like, guys, that was nonsense? How was I supposed to work that out? That it was a freaking piece of wood.
Yeah, I feel like you feel like you're an idiot because you're searching in that spot for such a long time and you come up short every time and you're just like, how did I miss it when I was like just solely focusing on the water well? Because I was the first one to find the water well on our tribe. So I had a good look there at the start. Not a great look, but a quick couple minutes sort of just like, oh, this is interesting. Could there be something here? And that's like where the inception of us, myself and Casper believing that Matt B had the idol. But yeah, essentially it's like, it was still a very exciting moment to finally find that block of wood. The clue thing's like a little bit hard to sort of go through on the screen. The clue, yeah, Casper had shown me or had spoken to me about that clue. Then once I'm on the red tribe, I get the clue from that flag. So then I have the same clue as her. And then I think when I win the breakfast reward clue for the idol, See, now I'm still confused actually. But yeah, I got a different note. But I think what happens is I shove it in my bag, and then later after the challenge, when I go and try and pull it out, I pull out the same clue that I've read before that was from the flag, not actually the clue that was different, which I found like another couple hours later and went, oh, it wasn't actually that clue that was the same. It's a
because they
different one.
described it. Yeah, they described it in the auction as a map, and so then I was surprised when it was the same clue. Was it more of a diagram? From your recollection,
It was a picture. Yeah. It was a picture.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
it still. I've tried to keep everything. But yeah, it was essentially like a picture of a drop and a picture of the water well. Or no, sorry, it was a picture of a drop and a picture of the block with an X on it. Something similar to that.
So that's how you finally figured it out. It was the piece of wood because it had a picture of it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It took a very long time. And I think when you
eventually, yeah. I've jumped ahead, but that's fine. Going back to the swap, this season had an interesting opportunity where basically, as a tribe, you could sort of determine where you were going. Each tribe approached that differently. Did you try and drive an outcome there? Did we try to make sure you stuck with certain people? Obviously, you ended up in a position where you had 3, but it ended up being a 3-4 situation. You were there with Kiara and Joe, if I'm correct. Now, Casper seemed like was probably your best ally at that point, based on just the effort she put in together, working together on advantages. How did you end up in a different tribe there? Were you comfortable with that outcome, when you saw that these were the numbers?
Yeah. I think we got told there was tree mail, so Casper and I ran down and collected that and brought it back, but we couldn't look what was in it. Or we couldn't look at the scroll, but we saw that there was like 5 bags. So we sort of assumed that there was some sort of swap. I think it's funny, like everything's happening so fast, and Casper had said, let's just do a lucky dip. And it's hard to turn things, and I didn't really have a thought as to what to do there, but it's hard to turn things when like a really easy option is brought up as a lucky dip, to go, oh wait, let's like think about this and do it a different way where I get sort of who I want. So probably wasn't the best scenario to go down because it does leave it to chance, but looking back, I'm not too sure how I would have manufactured something different. Essentially all I wanted was to go through with a 3 instead of a 2. And luckily I think there's a heap of luck in Survivor, and I definitely am someone that feels very fortunate with the luck Survivor gods. But yeah, that was just one of the things that turned my way to give me that higher number.
I guess that's a really interesting point to talk about, the luck, and you do end up in the high number. You do end up in the advantage position with the numbers. It is 3-4, but it's really a 3-2-2, and immediately there's cracks. David and Julie are effectively throwing each other under the bus. The Reds are obviously tight, but they're keen to jump on with you and not work with the chaos that David is bringing. You mentioned that you tried to keep David. Do you feel, mentioning when you tried to keep David, that you drove the Julie vote on that first one, or do you think it was still more of a group decision with yourself, Kiara, and Joe?
I actually feel like, and I didn't really at the final tribal, Michael asked the question about like what you drove, and I had a very terrible final tribal, I feel like, and I really froze up for a lot of it. But like that was one of the things that I feel strongly about, that I sort of drove almost completely. We'd sort of spoken about who we wanted to go for, and I put forward to my to Kiara and Joe that I really wanted to vote for Julie, just because I had no connection with her and I wanted to work with Dave, and they were sort of okay with it. Then when we snuck up to speak to Michael and Matt, they sort of had, and this is then Michael pushing his agenda of keeping Julie and voting for David. So we sort of agreed to that. once we sort of split up and spoke with Julie and David, which we already knew before going into that sort of scene, when we were doing the charades, we were all sitting off to the side, and we managed to get that information out of Julie that at their previous tribal, they were voting for each other. So we knew that there was that division between them already. So going down after losing that challenge, it was a case of Julie and David, and basically I sort of just said to them, like, are you comfortable voting for the other person? And essentially both of them were. So I was like, fantastic, we can sort this out. I think we'd agreed to vote out Julie, and it wasn't until the long walk to tribal, or potentially just before that, that I sort of grabbed Kiara and Joe and said, oh, look, just in case there's any funny like business with those guys on that end, we should just put our 3 onto Julie. So then it's at least a 3-3. And I feel like they sort of agreed to it just because it's quite a rushed situation, not realizing that like we've obviously grabbed David as well. So it's not going to be a 3-3 with David voting somewhere else. Like I've told him that he's actually got to vote for Julie to stay alive. So then coming back from that, Michael and Matt are kind of annoyed because we'd agreed that we'd vote out Julie. And also, like, if you go back in the scenes, Kiara and Joe are both a bit confused as to what had happened. And I feel like that was sort of like my first dipping my toe in the water of sort of controlling the vote completely, and really getting exactly what I wanted without having too much to sort of remediate afterwards. I just sort of feigned, it's like, I don't know what happened.
That would have been probably a good explanation of a vote you drove and the outcome, particularly for Michael, who was there and had been duped by that move. Probably would have been
that would have been nice. But I just, I feel like with the rush of like the 2 days, I didn't speak about day one at all. Like you're really exhausted, dehydrated, and I just froze up for so many questions, and that would have been a good answer if I had come up with it in the time.
I don't think there's an issue there. There's a school of thought, and we talk about it a little bit on this show, that the pre-merge is somewhat irrelevant in a final tribal council. The game really starts at the jury, particularly with the jury not for the first time in this season, a backyard not being from day one. So, yes, that would have been a relevant item for Michael and Matt for their question because they were there and you duped them. But equally, it was a vote that not only did it not really matter because it's day one, but it not really matters because David ends up going the next one anyway. So, you saved him, yes, but to what outcome? So it's probably it's a good move, but its impact on the game was limited, and it made sense why you weren't thinking about it. You then obviously vote out David. We talk about that. Go.
No, sorry. I feel like I was just going to add to that, that there's these sort of like butterfly effects that happen from after something like that happens. And I feel like if we had have kept Julie, yes, they had the 3 going into that next tribal when we voted out David, so it potentially would have just been Julie anyway. But because they assumed or they thought that we were going to be voting Julie, then he had a bit more of an unease on what was going to be happening that next tribal, which then he eventually doesn't play that extra vote. So all those little things sort of just add up to being just enough. Like he later in the game, when I spoke to him after the game, I think he said he felt like quite comfortable with me, but then he wasn't too sure on Kiara and Joe and how everything was going to work out there. But I feel like potentially he would have been like, they didn't say what they did that last tribal, so I don't know if they're going to do that again, which helps us in a long run as well with him not getting that extra vote.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great example of a small move having an effect that you didn't know it was going to have, of course, because you weren't aware of that advantage. You didn't even have it when you voted out Julie. But the fact that he was snowed on that one made him hesitant, which he's talked about and other people talked about in the comments. Well, skip it. Then you get to the merge. I want to talk about when the merge now, day 2, you've played a really interesting first day where it feels like you were never under threat. You did go to tribal council 3 times, so it's not like you weren't just safe from elimination. It doesn't feel like you're under threat. feels like you've got relationships with everybody, with all your original yellows, with Matt and Michael, even though, you know, you duped them on one vote, you came together then for the David vote, so they're feeling better about you. The new Reds seem really, the ones you haven't met, Rachel and Josh, seem to like you. Did you really feel that your social game was in as strong of a position as it appears on screen when you started that second day?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I put in the groundwork of early on, like in that day one afternoon, speaking with Michael and Matt and really letting them know that like I was keen to work with them, to sort of leave that door completely open and get them knowing, not just on day two when it needed to happen at the vote, going, oh yeah, I'll work with you. It's like you've got to set that seed up early for it to grow into what you want, which is them thinking that you are with them. So yeah, I was really happy after that first night, like the trajectory it was heading.
Were you worried though that Valentina returns to the game? So of all the people that come back, someone that you voted out early. It makes all the sense in the world for her to go with the other 6 people, and she doesn't do it. Were you, worried about, I voted this person out, she's not going to want to work with me? She may have more of a vendetta against Casper, but she's still not going to want to work with me because I voted her out. She can never properly trust me, et cetera, et cetera. Or did you feel that her lack of survivor knowledge, which you've mentioned before, made it possible to potentially reconnect in the way that all of the yellows were able to do?
Yeah, it was a really big unknown, like how she would sort of play it on that day two from joining us day one, because she gets in and then it's just like bedtime straight away. So I kind of felt like I was in a decent position because I hadn't told her too many lies going into that first tribal. So didn't really have to speak to her too much about, oh yeah, let's vote for Casper or anything like that. So there was no blood lost between us. So I felt okay with it. Again, I still felt like there could have been that possibility of working with David moving forward, just because they were so short in numbers anyway, that I could have sort of dealt with the aftermath of voting him out. And Dan, I just felt like was quite a wild character. I didn't really, out of the two, it would have been David that I was sort of hoping for. So the entire challenge that they were doing, their battle back challenge, like I didn't really want to cheer. And you hear Kiara and Joe really being vocal, but like I kept quiet the entire time until Val won, just because I didn't want to put my stocks into someone that wasn't going to get through. Yeah.
And did you feel that I appreciate you went to bed, you start the next day. Did you feel like you were able to reconnect with her? Or was it more in this first vote, a situation where, and of course you do flip your vote on this one, so I think this is really trying to consider, are you unsure of which way to go? Like it's a very pivotal moment for you because all the yellows are getting back together, which apparently includes Val, which doesn't make a lot of sense because she's walking around just desperately concerned that Casper's gonna get her again. Fu recognizes the value of Valentina as a potential flip vote. Fu, of course, is managing her own issues with Jake and having voted out Dan at the prior tribal council, but that seems resolvable given Jake recognizes perhaps his position better than most realize he would. But I think you had the social connections to probably realize how on a tenterhook that vote was. You still go in and vote with the yellows, even though you've made these relationships. And then when it's a tie, you decide to flip your vote. What was the thinking on that whole event? Quite pivotal.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a crazy trouble for myself. Going into it, I doubt that there was enough division in that yellow, like with the Reds and the Blues, with Fu and Jake, that Jake potentially wasn't going to vote with them. I thought, I can't remember if I just gave him some like donkey name to throw at, or just essentially if he didn't vote where they were voting, which was for Val, then we'd have the numbers. So that first vote, I was sticking yellow strong, hoping that he wouldn't vote with them to make it a 6-6. The tricky thing is that during that, there was I was in the back row. Jake was, I think, on my right, and then there was Josh and Michael and Casper down the back on the left. And I think she's speaking with Jake behind me, and like I catch a glimpse, and I think she's saying Sal, but she's actually saying Val. And I absolutely like freak out. And I think as a Survivor fan, you're just like, oh, I've been completely duped. I don't want to go home. I'm just going to throw anything at the wall, which is where when Brian and Kyle sort of say, does anyone have an idol? I'm just like, can I ask? And like, I'm just freaking out that I've somehow just caught at the last second that these guys are all voting for me and I've missed it somehow. So I'm just like, can you, because at that point we fully thought that Matt B had the idol. So I was just like, can you save me? Because I'm like freaking out. I think this is a blindside. And he's looking at me like I'm a bloody idiot. So I just piped down after a good like 20-second stare down. I was just like, seriously, I know you have an idol. Like, give it to me. And then I was like, fine, that's it. That's my game. So then after that series of events happens and they vote out, they read out the votes. And I was like, such an idiot, nothing to do with me. I'm just like super paranoid. I'm like living it up going, oh, I don't care which one goes for like home because I'm free. So I was like, yeah, I'll flip on Val. Like I've told these guys, I've told Fu, I've told Michael and Matt that I'm happy to work with them. So I felt really fluid in that middle position where I could still vote out Val, flip, be good with the yellows and speak to them about why I did it. But then also be good with the reds. So that's where that sort of vote flip came from. So then I was absolutely shocked when it still went Jake's way after I'd flipped. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, is this for real? Because that just, again, the luck gods sort of played in my favor, and I got to like tell the reds that I flipped and I was with them, but then still not have to deal with the aftermath of having Val gone, and then we're up on numbers. So that was a very pivotal, crazy tribal.
Now the Reds know that you've flipped because you've told them. I think you did. Did you tell them? Did you? Is that what you're saying? You told them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Josh knows, of course. That
yeah.
And Josh knows that he voted differently, so he knows someone must have. But the Yellows staunchly believe that no one flipped, particularly led by Matt B. He's like, that didn't happen. There wasn't a double flip. That's absurd. Did you continue along that line as well with the Yellows? That no, I was all good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you told the Reds. Yeah.
And like I never got caught out for it, like it never got back to the Yellows that Sal's told us specifically that he flipped them, like, which is insane. And I'm very lucky for it. But like for it to not come out once, it's just like madness. But yeah, I told, I think on the walk back, I spoke to Matt C and Rachel, I think it was. And then I probably would have told Michael as well, because I was close with him, that I was like, look, I flipped, I'm with you, but your guy screwed up. And of course, they're hearing it from Josh and from Fu that they both flipped. So it all checks out on that side. It's just that nothing was verified with the Yellows. And I think potentially it's because they want to work with me. So they don't want to blow up my spot. But for them not to blow up my spot when they're super frustrated with me a couple tribals later is something that I was kind of worried about. But it was never came up.
But even then, you could be like, that's nonsense. They're just making that up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
and, I mean, that's what happened, Fu was just like, oh, I flipped as well. And they're sort of talking it up going, man, Fu is playing an incredible game. Like she just walked up and said that she flipped and we know Josh flipped. So she's making it up. And I was like, yeah, she is just crazy.
You get through that vote. Who goes next? And it does feel that for the most part, everyone is just waiting for you to finally come along and make a move with them. And it feels like at this point in the game, particularly, you are itching. You just did make a move, but it was a bit of a secret move. You're itching to make a move, particularly as I think this is the point before Fu goes that you find both idols. Is that correct? Or do you find the rock idol after Fu goes?
I found the block one tribal before. So I think I find it just before Fu. and then I find the
At the
second one after foo.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's put
Were
together
you
as
the
if
only
it was
one?
the same time.
Yeah. Were you the only one desperately running around for things? I appreciate that you had a clue to the rock idol, or was it Casper that had the clue to the rock idol that told you about it?
No one
did
had
you
a
have
clue
the
to
clue, or did
the
Casper
rock
give you the
idol.
clue?
So the clue was
How did you know to
on
look
the
for?
merge scroll. Yeah, so the clue was on the merge
Yeah.
scroll, and it was leave no stone unturned, and it was essentially just the capital letters randomly placed in that parchment. So again, luck potentially, but I got to read out, and I was one of the first ones there, so I read out really loudly, and as soon as I noticed what was going on with those letters, very quickly I tried to remove that paperwork. But yeah, yelled out what it said, and then could see the letters which essentially spelled out leave no stone unturned. So from that point, when I'm running around, I do a lot of searching by myself. And then once I'm that frustrated that I can't, because I'm turning around physical, literal rocks, not paper mache rock. I was just like turning so many, like had done laps and laps and couldn't find this thing. I then do tell Casper that it's something to do with a rock. So then he was searching as well, but no luck for quite a
What
while
was everyone
until
else doing
the
at
end of
this
that
point?
scene. They're
What's
all
everyone else doing?
strategizing. So
You got it. Yeah. I just want to say you've got.
yeah, so
They know you've got a clue. They saw you get a public clue. It's obviously to a different idol, but they know you've got a public clue at the auction. You're running around like crazy, looking up under everything, and no one else is bothering to do the same or to check on you.
yeah, it was insane. Like they show Josh for a clip there, does like a little quick lap, but obviously with his knee couldn't sort of keep up. And that was it for my babysitting, which was fantastic. I think I was getting quite frustrated, so I was like really trying to purposely keep up the speed and stay away from the group, because it was a decent large area that we were sort of dealing with, and there was just rocks everywhere. I got told at one point to like take it easy on flicking the rocks because I was just doing a bit of damage to the like the site, the venue that we're at. But yeah, it wasn't. I think because it was that double tribal, so that was the point where Fu has gone home, and now we know that it's a double tribal of 5 vs 5, where everyone's still trying to work out what to do. So the yellows are like, we can't vote for Michael, so it needs to be one of them. So they were all entertained, and then the reds are trying to decide whether it's myself or Matt. But yeah, none of them follow me for whatever reason, which was good for my game.
What was so you're thinking there? Tell me through the strategy there. It's your Matt. You know it's going to be your Matt. You do already have an idol, not figuratively in your pocket because it's too large to fit in an actual pocket, and you're desperately hunting. Was your mindset either I'll find this second idol, or they will see that I've been hunting so much that they'll put the votes on Matt B anyway because I'm too risk of an option? Now, that notwithstanding, you do play an idol, noting you now have two. Did you think it was you? Did you think it was Matt? Like, what was you thinking? Or were you playing it safe? What did you feel was going to be the outcome in that particular tribal council?
Yeah. So I feel like with that one, there is two very distinct sort of plays that you do, and having one idol is like a select scenario, but then having two, I was really thinking once I'd found that second one, I was like, if I play this block, get it out of my bag because it's massive. But if I play this block, everyone thinks that I've just played the idol that I've been searching for. So my threat level goes from everyone thinks and knows I have an idol to now I'm level pegging again, when really I still have another idol.
Yeah.
And that was my thought of going, doesn't matter what happens, but I'm just now playing this idol that everyone thinks I have. So if I hold it and get voted out, that would be tragic because I have two. If I play it, it's called a flop, but really it's like they don't realize that I have another one for protection, because once someone knows you have an idol, it's just like, let's flush it. So it's like, if I just revert myself back to where everyone else thinks I am, but not realizing that I have to, and I don't have to search anymore because I know I have this other one. It's just like such a comfortable feeling going into tribals, going, if someone plays something, I have something to also protect myself. So for me, going out of that tribal, I was totally fine. Wasting the idol essentially, because I had that second one, and I felt like that really dropped my threat level.
Was the block, how were you concealing the block idol? Did it fit in your bag, particularly from Casper, who I think if they'd seen it in your bag would have been like, Sal, what the hell is that? As they were when they saw you play it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big chunk. I'd sort of gone over with the things that I'd chucked in my bag. So I think that, like, even at the end of the game, I think I had like 1 or 2 brown, like, squished bananas in there. So I just like crammed like a jumper and a beanie and other things, which I didn't really use the entire game. But there was a lot of junk, so it was always sort of full. So I'd wrapped it up in there, and it wasn't able to be seen. But I think the sort of difficult thing for Caspar was that I spent the entire time when we could have strategized searching. And then once I'd found that second idol, it was just like a confessional to say that I'd gotten it. And then when everyone's sort of doing their confessionals, and then it was straight to tribal. So like I didn't get any time to strategize to say, hey, I've found it, to anybody. Not that I would have anyway, but yeah, there was no showing anyone. It was very hidden.
Where did you hide the rock idol? You never have to play it. Did you hide it somewhere at camp? You can't be carrying that around in your bag. It was a large papier-mâché rock.
Yeah. So the paper mache rock actually had like an X on it, and I didn't do the theatrical thing of like smashing into the X, which I was supposed to do, but I ripped the paper mache, and it was actually like a necklace. So it was just a small necklace. It was much better than the block, so that's why I played the block first, and then just kept that small necklace in my bag up until that final tribal. So yeah, that was easy.
When you play the idol just after Casper's gone out, he looks particularly befuddled and disturbed, considering the amount of time you'd spent together looking, considering the amount of emphasis you'd both placed that Matt B had it, to find out that you'd had it. Now, you'd only recently had it, but did you feel at the time, and look, I don't know if you have a number one in this game, but it felt like that if you did, it was Casper. Was there did you feel there's a betrayal there, or is it very much like, look, I'm with you, I'm not voting for you, but I'm keeping my advantages and my advantages, even though you spent so long looking for them together?
Yeah. So I did have that block from like one segment before that. So once, like before Fu was going. So I did have that for a little bit longer than before I played it, and didn't tell her. I think I wasn't fully aware, because I'd just been running around like a headless chook that entire time, how under the pump she was. I think going into that, I just assumed that they would have stuck together and probably voted for Val. If she had told me, and I think I've probably got that vibe during tribal, that maybe it was more her than Val. I don't think, like, even if I knew, I don't feel like I would have played it, knowing that the onus was coming on to me after that.
And you had 2, but do you really want to play 2 idols at the same tribal council on? It's just such a big move that's going to put such an immediate target on you to play 2 idols in one tribal, potentially save 2 people.
Sorry. And that's like no, that's right. It's bedtime. That's the thing about these like big moves, right? Is like I can play an idol, and like if I knew, which I wasn't saying I did completely know, I could play an idol on Caspar, and then I can also play an idol for myself. Or alternatively, I play an idol on Matt, and I play an idol on me, and then definitely a red's going home from my group. And it's like, that is such a big move that then my game is cooked. And that's this whole thing about big moves. It's like, yeah, that's a big move, and I could have easily made that and gotten another red out, but then everyone is coming for me, and I like that's not a move that you want to play as a trying to be a winner. I don't think. I feel like
No.
your path is very, very hard.
You go into the next thing, and now it's 4-4. You've got the relationships with the Reds. Is there a time where you think, here, okay, this is now, I've lost Casper. I have these relationships with the Reds that I've been building the whole game. Do I flip to them now and take, so I've got a majority, or am I sticking true to these three other yellows? And some of which, only been with Kiara and Joe the whole game, but you don't seem as close. Valentina, come back for redemption. You flipped on her on the first vote. You seem like you had better relationships even with the Reds at that point, but you choose to stick with the yellows and even force a rock situation and choose not to play an idol when you're copying the votes. Did you know you were getting the votes? Were the Reds giving you an opportunity to flip to them? Tell me about this trouble, because this is a really interesting one as well, considering you are holding an idol in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd definitely counter that and say that I was definitely way more in with the yellows than I was ever in with the Reds. It's probably not shown as much, but I was frustrated by how close they were all sort of banding together, but definitely constantly checking back in with them to see how things were going, especially with Joe and Kiara. So I feel like moving that way, the Reds had clearly shown disdain for me after not going with them with the Jake, not with the Jake, but with the Foo vote. So it's like I told them all, yes, I'm with you. I will vote for Casper then, which then doesn't happen. So they were looking at me as the target, and I don't think I could have swayed them to go from me as the target to me on their side and really believe it. So for me, it was just that entire time really pushing the fact that we must go to Rocks, because I'd had that information that they were voting for me. And I'd done this before. Again, this sort of comes up with the org history, but I'd had that happen before as well. And it's you really emphasize and focus on just going to Rocks and there's no other scenario, and just pushing forward with that. So just before we're walking into tribal, I'm whispering to Matt saying, let's just focus on pushing this to Rocks, and we're both immune. I feel like it's quite ballsy because I did have an idol, but I was just thinking, this seems like my yellows are really solid. When they're reading the votes and they read out my votes first, I'm really worried, because it's three votes Sal, and then it comes up with Matt afterwards. So I'm really panicking that I've cost it there. But I just really wanted to push the boundaries of that rock draw, and going, if I can get this to a rock draw, which it seems like it should end up, then I'm actually immune. And I was really happy to go to a rock draw.
Sorry. Yeah, well, tell me about that. It's a great play. It's a great play, and you're the target. So what are you going to do about it? It's a great play, but you can't get anyone red to flip. But you have an idol. You can just not have any risk here. Why not play the idol on this particular vote?
If I had to, I would have. But because it was my last one, I'm I want to save this up where my threat level has come back up again. I mean, they're voting for me, so it's up there already. But I feel like this seemed like a more solid plan to get through, risk it, but then have that idol for the next vote if we go down. Because if we go down in it, then it's a 4-3. They vote for me again, undoubtedly, and then I play an idol and we go back to 3-all. With the odds as well, I'm not much of a mathematician, but having Kiara on our side have the immunity, it's it's already trying to scare them into not doing a rock draw, because we have the better chances of immunity out of them, if that makes sense. We don't have as many people that could potentially get rocked out.
Is part of your read though as well, Valentina and Joe and Kiara, they're just not the kind of people that are going to flip. They will go for the rock. A lot of players you couldn't have the confidence that they would take the rock risk. Particularly players like Joe and maybe Valentina to an extent, who at this point in the game, if they had the self-awareness, would realize they're probably not a huge end game target. So it doesn't really matter if they have the numbers. Like we had a great discussion on this chat about what would have happened if the Reds had won this vote. And I like to live in a fantasy world where they vote all you out and idle aside, and then they have to duke it out at Final Four. But really, they're all the sort of players that would start cannibalizing each other, trying to use a Valentina, trying to use a Joe or a Kiara. Probably not Kiara because she's a massive threat. The Joe and Valentina to make moves on each other, whereas you guys just weren't that. And obviously that was your read of those three women.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I think you can go back like a couple tribals and see how the Yellows voted when it was between Jake and Val, and everyone stuck true except for myself. So you've got that back history of knowing they have stuck and done the 2 votes in a row, which would have taken us to a tricky situation. Speaking after the game, I believe that she was not thinking about it as much because she was immune. So I feel like she's the biggest game player out of the 3 of them. And like her being safe didn't mean that she had to worry about potentially pulling the bad rock. Which just leaves, like I said, Val and Joe. And those 2 weren't as much of a flipping sort of mindset that would worry me. So yeah, I think it was a good side to be on. Whereas if you're on the Reds, then you're like, oh yeah, maybe something could happen.
You win that, you're ballsy, you get through the rock draw, you crush the 3 Reds. It's a bit of a 1, 2, 3 boring event for the viewers, but I'm sure it's very enjoyable for you in the real time. And you get to this Final Four situation. How much in advance were you thinking about this Final Four situation? I think, you're going to see yourself as a big threat. I think from what we've talked about in this interview, you probably felt like you were a big threat all the time. It's probably why you thought that you were going to get votes just because you thought you heard your name at the Merge Tribal Council. It's because you've got all this org experience. You've won orgs. You've been in an all-star game. You're probably used to being seen in that community as a threat. So you probably self-identify as someone who is a threat. So then you assume people will see that about you as well. And I think realistically, anyone should have seen you as a threat to win at this point. Also, Kiara, who's a threat to win. Is that what you identified, that Kiara will be my safety net, that we can get her out and I'll get through? How were you thinking of playing out the end game? How did it look like to you? Because you decided, obviously, you weren't going to use the Reds. 1, 2, 3. How am I going to manage this end game?
Yeah, yep. Kiara is like such an amazing person, and just like really takes her time with her thoughts. And I feel like I sort of freeze and just don't speak so eloquently. But when she speaks, it's like you just love hearing what she has to say. So you could really tell that when she was chatting, like when she was talking at Tribals, that the jury was really enjoying what she had to say and agreeing to what she had to say as well. She definitely hadn't burnt them all like I had. And yeah, like from down the track, you can see like if you keep a Red, they've got this like incredible underdog story. So it's like, that you have to have no Reds at the final 3, which just leaves the 4 of us, and then it's either Kiara, Val, or Joe, and Kiara's like the easy answer between the 3 of them. So it was. I definitely had.
It almost isn't an easy. Because
sorry.
And we talked to Kiara about this show last week. The other thing is, it's not an easy answer for everyone. We talked to Kiara about this on the show last week, that like Joe feels that, she doesn't deserve to be there. She's got no agency. She's not going to contribute anything. She'll just like quit, right? But she doesn't have to do that, obviously. And Kiara talked about how she ended up spending her time convincing Joe not to quit. What she should have been convincing Joe to do is like, put me in a challenge, give me a 2-2 shot. Considering how tight they were the whole game, Was that a concern for you that you could have been, not you because it would have been with Valentina, but that Chiara could have perhaps made her way into the final 3 through a challenge, considering she had such a tight 2?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think before going into that final, final 4, I believed that my game was good enough to beat all of them, and that was probably just an overinflated thought of my own game because afterwards everyone said like Chiara would have just walked all over me. But going into it, I was like, I felt comfortable being able to pitch my case against any of the yellows. So I wasn't extremely worried, but I knew like if I had the opportunity, it would be Chiara. Yeah, I think it was a very weird scenario with Joe sort of coming back and sort of saying like I don't wanna take a spot, like I want to give it to Chiara, and I was like, hey, whoa, like this is not your game to throw around like that, okay, guy? Um, so it was Kiara, but it was definitely myself and Val that were just like, hey, no, like you've got to take your opportunity, and like 3 is better than 4 at the very least, but you've got like a really good case to go against everyone. So I think yeah, Kiara could have definitely pushed her to just try and go for the even split, but yeah, somehow we just managed to get her. That's why I say, like in the final 3, I felt like that was a decent move to not make it a split, because obviously, like I was aware that that was a possibility, and they had been so close, and like everyone said, they're like you can't break those 2. So to be able to break them, I felt like that was a really good move. And it's like, yeah, she was going to win against everyone, so that was the easy thing. But it's like, yeah, but it wasn't for Joe. Like this took a lot of work to actually get Joe to vote for her person that she wanted to be on the jury and vote for, not vote against and vote out. So it was a lot trickier in that situation to actually get that result, I felt like, than probably what everyone else thought.
I agree. What was also critical is you were immune at this final 4. It's the first time you were immune the whole game. You were very close in the merge challenge. Were you foxing some of these challenges? Were you better than you let on and then pulled out here at the end? Or was it just the fact that you tried and didn't win the other ones?
Yeah, no, it was completely that. I think it only crossed my mind, I think, in that first challenge with just the bouncing balls. I was like, do I just throw this so I'm not seen as a bit of a physical threat? But it's like once you're in the moment and you're playing these games, you're just like, I can't, like I just have to give my all. So credit to Michael because he has the brilliant idea to like face away from the wind and keep it up. Whereas I didn't have that thought. And yeah, he toppled me over after a little bit. But yeah, in all of the challenges, I was giving my all, and yeah, got really close in that one. I mean, it's a bit hard to say I just lost to Josh in that final 5, sort of balancing the tower one, but I felt like I was really good at that one as well, but dropped it, and then sort of it almost caught back up to him again before he won that. So no, I was 100% giving my all at every challenge, but just couldn't actually get the win. So I was close, and that sort of was seen by a lot of people, but wasn't ever good enough to actually take it out.
A couple of live comments. Michael says you wouldn't have beat him anyway if he hadn't turned away, I think is the point he's making. Kiara here is saying you tore us apart, Sal, with a broken heart. I assume she means herself and Joe. But you did manage to win the immunity in the final 4. And did you feel that was critical? And post-game, have you checked if it was critical? If you're not immune there, is it Kiara, Val, and Joe, are they all voting for you? Are you out?
That's actually a really interesting scenario that I don't know if we did play out. Like obviously before that, you see a scene of Joe sort of saying that she would vote for me before we go into that challenge. So then Kiara can go through. I feel like I would have gotten it to a split. I feel like if I wasn't immune, I would have gotten Val to vote with me to vote for either Kiara or Joe. Yeah, I don't know if Kiara and Joe vote
Probably
for
Kiara.
Val at that point. Yeah. Depends, I guess, who you're saying got the immunity.
Yeah, well, the point I'm making is you and Kiara are the biggest threats, and you vote out Kiara because you're immune. If you're not immune, there might be a different perception there. Joe might be thinking very differently about that vote. Objectively, you're a threat, and you need to go. So is Kiara. I think it's pretty clear to the jury and to the viewers that which of you is there is winning, and that is what happens. You talked a bit about your final tribal council that you didn't think you did a particularly good job. You're probably going in with quite a head start because your game has been obvious enough and it's a strong game. And I think very clearly here, I think how you've now explained it here, it's a very, very strong and well thought out game. You have pissed people off. What was your thought there? You did, I guess you make the judgment, in my experience. Are the people I pissed off Survivor lovers and gamers that can get over it because they value a good game, or do they take it personally? Had you sort of made that evaluation? Did you feel like you were in a good spot with getting these votes?
Yeah, 100%. Just like what you said there, I think you make that assumption for like Matt, for Michael, for Josh, for Rachel, and for Casper, which is I think the only 5 I get in the end anyway. So it's like even though I've lied and like
6.
screwed over,
I think you got 6 votes. I think you might have got Foos as well.
Oh, sorry, Fu as well. Yeah, of course. So yeah, with that, it's like even though you've screwed them over, that like they respect the hustle and the game sort of points from it. I think, which is probably a bit naive of me, but like I felt like I might have gotten Kiara's as well because of that point. But obviously, like such a good connection with Joe, couldn't grab that one. And then same for Matt B. I think Matt B and Jake were really impressed with Val's sort of comeback story from losing and just winning so many challenges, which is fair. But yeah, going into it, I definitely felt confident that I'd have those.
Yeah. But speaking to you here, you're very eloquent. I think you've explained your game extremely well. Now you have rewatched it, you've consulted your notes, you made sure you were prepared. You felt that you weren't as strong in talking about your game, just based on what you said earlier. Now I know it's a high pressure situation. It's a big couple of days. You're exhausted. Did you feel that you would do better though, particularly as you having had experience in a org final tribal council?
I felt like going into it that I was going to win, and then like instantly after, because I was the first one to speak, just didn't get a heap of like good responses. Again, I felt like I just didn't really explain myself really well. I didn't take the time. It felt like we were under like a time constraint, and I didn't have a long time. And I was just trying to be quick. Like said, absolutely nothing about day one, and yeah, could just get a bit of a vibe from the jury that like they weren't as impressed with what I'd done as I was. And obviously I had seen it all, but I couldn't explain it all to them. So that's where like even showing that I had a second immunity necklace, they're like, is that even real? They weren't like super excited about it.
I think their factor was, which is sort of what the viewers feel is in the edit, right? Yes, Sal, you played a good game. We can hear it. But what we would rather vote for the game that you promised to play and didn't. You promised to make this clip with me. You promised to come and move. And then when you pull out another rider, it was like, there's another move you could have made and didn't. But you're still here, so I sort of got to vote for you. But I wish you just voted. You'd done the things that you promised to, because it would have been more interesting and obviously better for the people on the jury. I feel like that's how they were reacting to you, but obviously you made the right decisions because you won the game.
Yeah, very, very fair point. Yeah, I feel like I should have maybe with that idol sort of explained when I got it and the reasons why I hadn't used it at each tribal. Again, I felt like there was a bit of a time pressure.
Mm.
So I definitely didn't speak about half as much as what I should have and sort of gone through a bit more of what was going through my head. But yeah, I just feel like I completely froze up and didn't do a great job of explaining anything really. Which is, yeah, when it goes into the questions
Michael
as
has a
well,
question.
I feel stumped.
Michael has a question for you now. I don't know if he asked you this at the time. He wants you to answer it now. How did you come up with the strategy? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Is this weird? Yeah. Talk us through that. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, like obvious. Yeah, for sure. Like the SSSS to SS. It was like
Yeah.
just like a little
Yeah.
quip joke that I sort of made to my wife early on. I think we got the nod maybe like a month or two before we were actually going to play, something like that. So just going through different sort of scenarios and practicing different challenge sort of ideas and things that I could like come up with. It was just something stupid, and my wife was just like, "Don't say that, and don't wear two hats." And I said it, and I wore two hats and looked like a bozo, which helped my threat level at the start as well. I feel like. So yeah, it was just
I
a bit
think
of a
so
funny
too.
thing, and then it was just like, how many S's can you add to it?
I think the hat helped a lot. I think that you're a very athletic. You got the long hair back then. You're a cool looking guy, right? You're a good looking, athletic, cool guy. The hat did make you look like a bit of like a dork. Was that the
For
plan?
sure, the two
Yeah.
hats. Yeah. Yeah, I looking back on it, I was like, oh man, I should have just worn my cucumber hat instead of the floppy hat over the top the entire time. Um, but yeah, it had its uses.
Yeah.
I think it came in handy. Yeah.
Um, do you have anything? I think we've covered your game, and I think we've got a great perspective on all the things you were thinking. You made some very bold not moves, which I think is what's so impressive, particularly when you don't play your idol, when you know it could go to rocks. I think you absolutely. I don't think anyone would question you deserve this win. It was a very, very strong game. It's great to hear about all the things that you were doing to set it up. Do you have anything final that you want to say that you haven't had a chance to talk about, or that you think is relevant that we haven't covered?
No, I think that's it's been great to speak with you. Um, Everyone says it, but like the amount of effort and determination and time that like that Kyle and Brian put into this is just next level. And from start to finish, it was really a quality TV show that I was so privileged to play. Yeah, it was a hell of a time, and will I feel like I'm so lucky to be able to, in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, like pull it up with the kids. And like we watched it as a family each episode, and I got like my like mum and dad and brother and sister over as well, and like all watched each episode together. But yeah, in another 10 years' time, like the quality is that good that I can sit down and watch it with them and sort of enjoy it again, which is just such an unreal thing to have for someone ordinary like myself.
They do an incredible job. As I said last week, I started watching a little bit of Survivor New Zealand in preparation for the person from New Zealand who's playing in Australia versus the world. And honestly, the production in this season is better than New Zealand Survivor 1, which would have, had a budget of what, like at least $1 million, just to film it and put it together, and professional people working on it, professional editors, professional camera people, crew people. They do an amazing job. I absolutely agree. And this season, as we've talked about, is so incredibly well produced and so well edited, particularly as in some of the points it's can be a little bit dull from a game point of view, but they still tell such a strong emotional story. I feel like this season is the most emotive and will create the most emotions. As horrible as what happened to Holly, it does make you feel something, which is why you watch Survivor for the gameplay, but you also watch it for the people and you want to feel things. That's why we watch entertainment, right? So this season, they really captured the magic of all those stories and all of the characters and the players. And I think they really captured you and your game incredibly well. But it was still fantastic to sit down with you and talk about all these moves, because it's given me a new light on, I think, what I think was a very, very, very excellent game. And you should be commended for it. You really did control the game for yourself from start to finish without, you were at risk, but the only time you're at risk, you were it's fascinating, because the only time you were really at risk, the only time you got the votes, you could have protected yourself, and you were so confident and so bold in your read of the game that you didn't save yourself with an advantage that you held, and instead read the tea leaves correctly, which sets you up for the entirety of the balance of the game. Really, really impressive, I must say. And so kudos to you and the game that you played.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's been great to like come on and actually speak about it and do like a proper deep dive and go through so much as well. That's been just like it's all part of it, and I feel like that was something like as a player going through it, having the drone shots and taking like multiple takes of us going over the hill, and I was just like, holy hell, like this is the real Survivor. Like going through the entire game, it was so well put together for us as players, as well as the product that everyone sees. And I feel like that's why you get that emotion come through the screen, is like we get a loved one's letter, and because I can only talk for myself personally, but because that's such a like a real Survivor moment, that even though it's been like 24 hours, just because they're writing to you in this environment, like it made me tear up and feel really emotional. And like even at the end, I've just watched the final episode this morning through my like catch up, and like watching us vote out Kiara is like it's not upsetting, but like it really does pull on your heartstrings. And it's I feel like that must be incredibly hard to do as a producer. So it's pretty special.
I really appreciate what you've done as well with this extra work I've done. You are the 9th person that I've done one of these long deep dive interviews with about their game, and every single one of them has been fantastic. To be honest, like every single one has been great, and they've all remembered their game really well, even though they were all played longer than you. But I don't think any of them rewatched the entire season in preparation. And so I love the preparation that you brought to this. I think it's made for an outstanding interview, and I thank you for taking the time to do that as part of our process.
Hey, no worries at all. I'm here for it. Yeah, it's just me giving back my little slice of what I got out of it. Like I'm totally happy to give back to the Survivor community, and I've really tried to lend a hand to the bad crew over here in Perth as well, and we'll continue to do so with anything moving forward as well.
The backyard community is one of the top communities. As we know, they're just bursting with people and crew. There's so many people, they've got to turn people away. Thank you for joining, Sal. Thank you for being part of our coverage. Thank you to everyone who has watched live. And I know there's a lot more of you that will listen to it or watch it after. Thank you to you. We appreciate all of our viewers and listeners who join us as part of our coverage. Next Monday, a bit of an earlier one, the one you all wait for, the fun one. It's the tea party with Annabelle, Josh, Casper, and Rachel. I'm sure that's going to be incredibly fun and exciting. And then, of course, the week after, I'll catch up with Carl and Brian, and we will do the awards. For those of you listening that live in Canberra, or maybe you're prepared to drive to Canberra, do not forget that this Friday night, the first ever ORCA drinks, brought to you by the People's Champion, Eden coming 5th place, and therefore requiring me to put $1,000 on the bar. We will be awarding ORCA medallions, Bromelo medals, to any of the ORCAs in attendance. I believe we will have 2, sadly not the person from that particular season, but 2 ORCAs will be awarded. We will have a live Twalsh. It's going to be a fantastic night. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this and you live in Canberra this Friday night, look up all the details on our Facebook. It's at Casey Jones. Hope to see a lot of people from the Canberra community there, because there's a minimum spend at this place, and I'd rather you come and drink my money than it just go to the bar. So make sure you're there to buy drinks so we can all have a great night. Thank you, Sal. Thank you, everyone. We will catch you soon. I need something to say. I need a catchphrase. You any good ideas, like an ending catchphrase?
ORCA out.
Yeah, I was thinking ORCA out. ORCA out.